Hey guys, Tamor Hussain here, and on this week's Off the Record, we're running a bit of a skeleton crew. I'm joined by Andy and OXM's John Hicks, and we talk about the mostly smooth launch of Titanfall, as well as whether it feels like a blockbuster launch event. From there, we move on to the confirmed release date for Watch Dogs, and the current discussion about whether it's been downgraded since we last saw it. Andy tells us a little bit about his visit to Rare, and as much about Kinect Sports rivals as he can without breaking embargo. Then we talk about GDC, which kicks off next week, and the rumour of Sony's Oculus Rift type VR headset for PS4. Finally, we end on what we've been playing and recount the hard game purchasing decisions we've had to make in the past. As always, please feel free to use the chapter select on the right hand side of the screen to skip to the bits that you want to listen to. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as on iTunes. Welcome to the CVG Off the Record podcast. My name is Tamor Hussain and I am joined in the studio by Andy Robinson.
Hello.
And John Hicks.
Hello.
That's it. Just
and
three
an
of us.
empty seat.
And an empty seat. No one cares enough.
That's how many friends we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Or
I like to think of it as that I'm just, such quality and you're getting so much insight from
we
me.
need to
Like
clear
I'm like
the
two
space.
people's
a
worth
fourth
of
man
stuff.
would just take the spotlight off of John Hicks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And I don't think any of us want that, at least all the listeners.
We're going to kick off by shining the spotlight on you. Titanfall came out this week and
It did.
it looks like it's been a mostly smooth launch. How's it been from your end? Like you've been watching, keep an eye on the Xbox side of it.
Yeah. It seems to have gone quite well. There were some server problems overnight around the US thing, which apparently wasn't actually to do with Titanfall. It sounded like it was some other kind of Xbox Live infrastructure glitch.
Twitch plays Pokemon, breaking everything again.
Yeah, that's it's those guys. But
It has to be partially related, surely. Otherwise,
I think it was. I think it was John Shiring on Twitter, who's the kind of network lead from Respawn, and he said it wasn't theirs. I imagine it's just Microsoft weren't quite set up for it.
I imagine it was Titanfall was to blame, but it wasn't Titanfall's infrastructure that went down.
Yeah, it was that sort of thing. But it seems to have been a fairly minor glitch. It seems to be all up and running now. I know there's a few people going, "Oh God, this is terrible. It's SimCity all over again." It's like it really doesn't look like that. I think it's just there's just been a few errors getting it out there. I think there's a few people have suffered because if you went for the Titanfall bundle, that's the Xbox One that's got a download code in it, it sounds like it's taking a while to download because a whole lot of brand new Xbox Ones are trying to download that thing at the moment. But yeah, otherwise it seems to have gone pretty well. People are enjoying the game. I mean, it's had a really solid critical reception, I think. I was a little bit surprised. I say that like OXM gave it 9 out of 10, so it's not like we were kind of going, oh my god, it's the most perfect. It's absolute 10 out of 10 perfection. But I think there were a few 8s crept into the lineup, which I was a little bit surprised by. But otherwise, it's obviously it's really good. Everyone, a couple of million people played the beta and liked it. Like there's been some really, really cool reactions. So I think.
Am I the only one who think it feels a bit underwhelming? It doesn't feel like a blockbuster launch. I've not heard any noise about it. I've not had any PR, arrows coming in my face. There's no snaps of Paris Hilton picking up a Titan.
Well,
an actual Titan.
You know what I mean?
I can just imagine the kind of the blank expression of Paris Hilton as she's issued with this giant robot, which she instantly eBays. I think that's because it's happened in North America. I mean, they did a big thing. I think it was Austin was the American launch.
Yeah.
It doesn't formally come out in the UK for another day or so.
You bet your ass if that was Gears of War that came out this week, we'd bloody well know about it. I mean, it just doesn't seem to be... Is this you just building up to the fact you haven't been invited to the party tomorrow? I have.
There you go.
See you there. I think it just feels a bit quiet. I mean, I was expecting anything else. I was expecting some PR telling me how bloody brilliant it had done so far. I mean, maybe that'll turn up later.
I think this is the kind of it's a symptom of the kind of general penetration of the Xbox One. And if it does shift consoles around Christmas times, it will be one of the games that's given another massive marketing push. So I don't know why they're not being bigger about it to let people know it's out there and stuff like that. Maybe it'll change.
TV commercials all over the place, aren't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're spending quite a lot of money promoting it. Like, there's lots of like TV spots and videos and all that stuff. I mean, I think it's a little bit. I guess it's a little bit lower key just because of the time of year, and then this is why games released this time of year sell less than games that come out at Christmas. Like if this was like a November release, then everyone's kind of geared up. It's all going to tie into kind of Christmas marketing, that kind of stuff. I think the market is a little bit down by comparison, but I think that it feels to me like they've kind of thrown the kitchen sink at it. It feels, and like lots of people know about it. Lots of people seem to be buying it. Lots of people seem to be liking it. Obviously, I only look at the Xbox audience, so mine is a kind of skewed version. But I think it's as big as you could expect this time of year. I mean, and I guess we'll see. There'll be a point of comparison when Second Son comes out, and you can see how that one goes down. My suspicion would be that would be a less of a push. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's out on Friday, so we're not experiencing it because it is, in a different part of the world happening right now. So we'll see how
it's
it
out on
goes.
Friday in the UK.
Yeah, it's out on Friday in the UK. So
yeah. So I imagine Thursday will be the PR stunt when like there'll be some Titan in Shoreditch or something, like one of those. One of those.
It will have like a really big beard and like wearing a beard.
For our international
hipster Titan is.
Shoreditch is a bit like a hipster area. Of
I
London.
went there the other day for an event, and every time I'm there, I hate it. I'm like, this is the part of London. This is like the teenager that refuses to just have a shower and get with the program of London. I was trying to find where I'm supposed to be, and it's like back roads. And by the time I got to the building, the actual building was falling apart. It was actually bad. It was, they used it for like the scene of a murder crime, and I was like, I can't tell whether you set that up or if that's an actual murder scene.
Yeah, whether it's like they got it, it's like, oh sweet,
yeah, someone's already done it.
Someone's actually already been murdered, so that's actually bang on brand. So
if you're not familiar with Shoreditch, Google the YouTube video "My Life as a Dickhead."
Yeah,
that'll pretty much
that basically does it.
know.
The worst thing is like, I've got a bit of a beard now, and I've always had a bit of a massive beard, and I wear this stupid hat. I've been doing it for years, but now, when I walk to Shoreditch, I'm like, oh look, it's another one of those hipster dudes. I was like, no, I was like this before you guys.
Are you like on a
you've got the heavy frame glasses now as well. So
yeah, true.
Like, I think you are becoming Shoreditch.
An actual hipster.
You breathe the air. The change is irreversible.
Every night I just kick my own ass just to make sure I'm not. But yeah, so Titanfall. Other than that, Watch Dogs. That big news for that. It's got a May release date.
Yes.
Boom.
Watch Dogs, which was
big.
Well, I think that was always going to. Well, it wasn't always going to be May, but it was very much. It had to be before E3.
Yes,
because it missed last Christmas. It missed the kind of first. And actually, I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's actually a strategic decision by Ubisoft at this point, because they don't want to send it out to bat against Dark Souls and Titanfall and Second Son and all that kind of stuff.
I love that Dark Souls is a genuine concern for some people.
Well, I'm speculating on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be interested to see how the sales go down, because I think it's Dark Souls is one of those games where like we care about it and the people listening to this podcast care about it, but that's a fair that's not all of gaming, right? Like more people are going to buy Titanfall than Dark Souls, I suspect. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'll come on next week and then go, oh yeah, I was wrong about that, wasn't I? And obviously Namco are putting a load of weight behind it, which is great, but it's still quite a hardcore game. I would expect that to sell kind of Nintendo numbers rather than Call of Duty numbers. But it's obviously it's still a kind of challenge to people's wallets, right? So Ubisoft would want to stay away from that. But they had to get Watch Dogs out before E3 so they can come out and have their surprise new IPs revealing it.
So
E3.
Is it going to be any good? What's the feeling?
I think it's going to be all right. I mean, I kind of went off the board because I was really excited about Watch Dogs when they saved E3, whenever it was 2012.
Yeah.
I think when it was just really dull, and that was the only exciting thing that came out of the whole thing. And actually, because I haven't been to the Ubisoft press conference for a couple of years, because you just finish up, you're crammed in this ancient theatre, sweating whilst like rented celebrities say unconvincing things about Just Dance. And I don't know, so I can't be bothered. But like that year, I was like, all right, I'll go to Ubisoft. Fine. Then they came out with Watch Dogs. It's like, brilliant, Ubisoft save video games. And that was great. Really looking forward to it. And then I didn't get to playing it until I think Gamescom last year. And then it was a bit like, it's okay. And it was just, I mean, it's fine, but it's very much, it's out of that same factory that gives you Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 3 and that kind of stuff. Like, it's got kind of like that Far Cry 3 like towers mechanic. It's got kind of Assassin's Creed style world and all that kind of stuff. And actually, I love the world, and I'm really keen on the kind of the hacking, the technology, and that kind of stuff. But actually, when you see it all put together, the actual execution was a little bit. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't the kind of sort of thing I was hoping for.
I think Ubisoft are a company that need to make a shit game before they reach their peak, right? They need the fan feedback to shape the project. I mean, you look at everything they've done. I mean, they needed Assassin's Creed 1 to get to Assassin's Creed 2. They needed Far Cry 2 to get to Far Cry 3. They needed Assassin's Creed 3 to get to Black Flag.
Well, steady. They don't go stepping to Far Cry 2. I've got a lot of time for Far Cry 2, although obviously like more people liked Far Cry 2.
But they are really good at that. I mean, if Watch Dogs comes out and it's sort of, all right, middling 7 out of 10, the next one will probably be awesome.
I think the big controversy Watch Dogs related is that they released a trailer and a YouTuber went back and put the original footage from E3 2012 alongside the new one, and there is seems to be, well, people are saying they can see a marked downgrade
it looks like us,
in quality.
The creative director of the game's come out on Twitter since and claimed that the footage in that trailer is not representative of the best visuals in the game. I don't see why they would do that. Go and pick some.
Was
some
it
dodgy
a proper
visuals.
trailer? Wasn't it like a Twitch stream they did?
Oh no, it was a real trailer. It was a
Okay.
cinematic trailer, so lots of cutscenes and stuff. But that I've got to say that would annoy me a little bit if it did come out. I mean, okay, you could probably accept if it was high-end PC version. I mean, it's running on a PC. They developed the game on PCs aimed at specs. I mean, that's the whole story. If you go and speak to them, their open quotes success end quotes story is that they didn't wait for the platform holders to right, we're going to do some new consoles. They just started making their games on super high-end PCs aimed at the specs of what they presumed the new machines would be, which is why you got Black Flag and Watch Dogs now, and they're sort of like ready to push it in that regard. But I'd be a little bit annoyed if at least the PC version doesn't look like that demo, because you go back now, it looks incredible. Like just like there's leaves and rain that's being manipulated by wind and stuff like that. Just that level of physics. Like there's a scene where the petrol station, the gas station, sorry, Americans, explodes, and it like affects his jacket and how he stumbles. And I mean, Ubisoft are really good at animation, but I'd be surprised if it.
That's interesting because there's a quote out there from Jonathan Morin, a director of Watch Dogs, from late last year, where he said, where a similar question was put to him, whether it had been downgraded. He said, there is no scale down in quality, especially in the next one versions. It's pretty much the opposite. What we showed at E3 2012, in a lot of respects, was less good. I think it's in the details, so no, there's no scale down. It sounds like they're sticking with that. But he's saying the new version actually looks better than what we showed before.
Yeah,
which is kind of dangerous territory.
And they put that trailer out, and you're like, yeah. Well, I guess it's not finished. They've still got a couple of months, and obviously what they showed at, and I should say, I mean, whilst I'm a little bit down on it, it does look phenomenal, and the demos that I did see, like kind of at E3 and Gamescom, they were running on PCs. Like, if nothing else, like when they showed it to me at E3 at 2012 rather, they were just running it on a PC. So at the very least, I know it can look fantastic on what is now a 2-year-old PC. So I imagine that you're on some fairly safe money to think it'll look all right on the PC version. Maybe they've had to kind of make some compromises to make it, because it's coming out for 360 PS3, isn't it? So there might be some. I'm sure the PlayStation 4 version will look lovely, because that's the rules.
I mean, I'm yet to see or play a next gen and a current gen game that feels like a new generation, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much.
I mean,
the same.
you've just. I mean, I know you can't really talk about it, but you've just played through Infamous. I mean, what does that look like?
I can't,
because I remember seeing it last E3 and that looked amazing.
It looks really nice. I'm not going to say too much for fear of having.
You can say what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks really nice in parts, but there's more to presenting a next gen game than just having really sharp visuals, and no game puts that point across more for me than Infamous. I won't say much more, or the review's going to be up on the 20th. But yeah.
But visually, we are talking strictly about visuals. There's like all kinds of smoke and particles, and it was the only game that I've seen that's approached anywhere near that Unreal 4 demo.
Yeah, but obviously when you have that level of detail, from a technical perspective, it looks really, really good. There's some amazing effects, some of the best I've seen on consoles. Yeah, but
plus breaking embargo.
Yeah, full stop there then.
Yeah,
right.
yes. So,
read my review next week.
Yes, you can. I guess you kind of park it there. I mean, I guess what we're waiting for is the kind of next gen experience where you get something.
I'm waiting for the Gears of War. Yeah, basically, you're waiting for Gears of War 1 to turn up.
And I guess this sort of Titanfall's like kind of a step towards that, because the game itself is quite slick, and it's I know because that's how we've described it. It's like this feels like a next generation shooter. It doesn't have that level of
It's not a pretty game.
It's not. It's not going to clearly not going to meet your standards for. I mean, I think,
but it's not. It's not a good looking game.
Yeah, it shows. I mean, it's just like with Call of Duty, where you can see the heritage of the engine and kind of where it's all inspired by and all that kind of stuff. It looks very much like a Call of Duty game, which many people know now is based on old technology like Quake mod and this kind of thing. But this is Source, so I can see the Source parts of it.
I know this is the most shallow level of, exactly. Of gaming, and it's not really what's most exciting about games at the moment. But I want to see some stuff at E3 that's going to blow me away now. I'm ready. No more cross-gen excuses. No more,
I think you will. I mean, there's... obviously, we've had, Arkham Knight's been announced now. That's just the next gen.
I think Ground Zeroes looks really nice. And kind of is almost... from what I've seen of it, little I've seen of it, it's kind of has the next-gen gameplay hooks as well.
It's all right.
Oh. Fair enough.
Well, we're breaking review embargoes.
I saw a really sweet running animation that I was like, that looks
next
good.
Gen.
It looks like a badass.
But it's a bit. I think come E3, people will be back at the platform holders and development publishers will be able to go, all right, this one's just for next gen. It's just for Xbox One, PS4, and it looks amazing. And it's like I was saying when I was last on here, and then I saw something in the YouTube comments telling me I didn't calling me out because. Actually, I can't remember some illogical reason.
Is it because you sound like a chav?
I don't think that was it.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, that's another reason I'm here to kind of like radio for it up all in this. But it's still the games that are coming out. Watch Dogs is probably going to be the last one, I guess, that's actually going to have been like cross-gen, because it was supposed to be out last year. It was developed on everything simultaneously, and they've had to kind of spread it across. But like this year's E3 and this Christmas, it's going to be like, right, it's next gen. We've got our heads around it. We know how to use the hardware.
And I think that's coming sooner than anyone thought, right? What anyone predicted. I think a lot of people have been caught off guard by how quickly the uptake has been with the new consoles. I mean, I remember interviewing Frank Chabot at last E3, their EA labels boss, and he was predicting that it'd be at least, you're looking at 2-3 years before the next gen only, SKUs would be turning up. I mean, maybe that will be the case for EA, but...
Yeah, well, yeah. So
you see, like Batman, for example,
because EA is still releasing titles for.
You see, like Batman announced the other day, next gen only, and according to the rumors, the Call of Duty will be, next gen leaning.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine Call of Duty is going to go next gen only for ages, because there's still however many 30-40 million last gen consoles out there. But yeah, I mean, like Sony said, they've sold like 6 million PS4s. I think I can't remember what the last number Microsoft put out was, 4 million maybe. Yeah. So there's still, that's a good, that's a good base to target. You can probably go for that. And I guess it's, well, obviously no one knows anything, but it's, the last gen went on for so long, and clearly there is that sort of pent up demand. And I think there is, I've read some interesting things about kind of console data recently about apparently like sales of the last gen consoles have sort of tailed off very rapidly, like that quicker than anyone expected. New next gen's doing very well, but it's not entirely filling that gap. There's that Wii market that just isn't there at all anymore. Like that's because like Wii represented millions and millions of gamers last gen, and like Wii U represents like 10. It's all sort of it's an interesting place. Well, actually, the other thing that's going to happen at E3 almost certainly is that they'll cut the price of the existing consoles, and it's like, get an Xbox 360 for 99 quid.
I can't believe that's not already the case.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I imagine I'll do it just before Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that.
So moving on from that, GDC is happening next week. Is that right? Yeah.
On the ball.
On the ball. So you're going to be going to that, aren't you, Andy?
We are both going.
Oh, you're both going.
I'm going to. I'm excited.
I love
It's
GDC.
it's my favourite conference.
GDC is excellent. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know much about GDC, it's like E3 without the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like E3 where people can go to a bar without getting harassed.
Yeah. It's basically the difference is E3 is about selling games. E3 is about trailers and promotions and pre-orders and marketing, and GDC is about making games. And it's so much more interesting. Like you can meet a game developer and you can just talk about game development. You meet a game developer at E3 and what you get, and they're only allowed to talk about the three things that are on the marketing presentation.
Yeah, I met Mark Cerny in a bar last year. Just there,
chilling.
just the PS4 architect.
With
mate.
With his haunting soft voice.
That's consistent. Basically, it's consistent. You can like go in, McDonald's, and the Ubisoft guys will be in there, and
Last time I went to GDC, I bumped into a guy I know outside the developers conference. We finished up going for dinner in this like quite shitty Mexican restaurant with like Chet Falizek, Eric Walpole, the writer of Saints Row 3, and like Valve's head of music or something like that. Wow. And it was just like, yeah, should we just go to Mexico? Yeah, right. So we just sat there like knocking back horrible margaritas, and he was trying to explain like Valve's employment structure to me. And it was great. Like,
you just get that's where you get the genuine insight into what's actually
you
going
might not get a lot of trailers
now.
But you'll get some really good quotes and that kind of stuff coming out of it, right?
Yeah, and you get a whole lot of other stuff that you could never ever tell anyone. But,
if you're a real gamer and you care about the art of making games and innovating and looking ahead, it's about GDC.
So one of the things that is rumored to show up there, a little less exciting. One of them is being discussed is DirectX 12.
That's not rumored.
Oh, it is coming then.
Yeah, that's happening.
Yeah, no,
that's
I think
official.
there's actually a session called DirectX 12.
Okay, I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't read the paper right in front of me. But yeah, other than that, Sony and a virtual reality headset. That is a big deal right now. It's still only rumored, but multiple places.
Well, officially, it's only rumored.
Yeah.
We broke that story last year.
Yeah, we did.
And we've reported on it since, and it's definitely happening. Definitely happening.
For shizzle.
You look at that that session that they've announced for Tuesday afternoon/evening. It's about 6 p.m. Pacific time. So that's early morning in the UK. They've only just announced it, and it's intentionally very vague. I mean, Shuei Yoshida's there, who's the head of Worldwide Studios, so it's a big deal for him to be there at all. And it's like, I think the description's one sentence, says, the future and innovation on PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
I would bet your house on it turning up there.
And Yoshida's a guy that has been rumored to be in the past be talking to or meeting with Oculus and that kind of thing. So it's clearly something that he's interested in. But most recently, there's been a number of reports, but the most recent one reported on by Edge and us is that someone has told them it's far superior to Oculus Rift's first version.
So it's quite interesting. I've talked about this a little bit. At the Golden Joysticks, I was lucky enough to sit next to Palmer Luckey during the ceremony.
Who's Palmer Luckey?
Who's Mr. Oculus Rift. He's the inventor, who's annoyingly young and rich. I think he's 21, isn't he?
Something like that, yeah.
Nice guy. But I was talking to him about this stuff because obviously, we'd been told by various sources that the Sony thing was happening anyway. I was asking about, and it is an interesting deal because I get the impression Oculus just wouldn't work even on these new consoles because, from my understanding, to get the effect to work properly, you need to have 1080p, both eyes, at least 60, and that's at least, it works better at higher than that. I mean, these machines are barely running Battlefield at the moment in 1080p at 60, once, let alone twice. So that's one challenge. But one of the plus signs for the potential of such devices, another understanding I have, and someone in the comments will probably tell me I'm chatting absolute bullshit, is that the Oculus, a lot of the technology in the Oculus is used to track the position of your head, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're looking. But obviously, PlayStation 4 can cut the majority of that out by sticking a big light bar on your head, and then you've virtually got one-to-one movement just by having the camera track the light on the headset, which is obviously something that Oculus doesn't do. So from my understanding, that's actually a again, I'm not a professor like Mr. Lucky, but from my basic understanding, that is actually potentially quite a big win in terms of performance and how much they actually need to squeeze out of it.
Yeah, but obviously, the story's been going around for ages. I mean, assuming it is true, I would have to say I would love it if this presentation's just about, here's an update on PlayStation Now.
PlayStation Move 2.
Move 2. That'd be great. Still more essential this time. I think if it, these rumours have been going around for ages. I think they've clearly been working on it for a while. They've got quite a good technology story with the PlayStation 4 anyway. It's whatever it is, it's not going to be something that everyone's going to run out and buy, and it's not going to be a mass market thing.
That's the interesting thing, because although there'll be a lot of core people out there who are like just quite excited about the general idea, it doesn't seem like a particularly smart idea, does it? Especially when the reason they've pushed it back. I mean, the guys we were talking to were telling us they were going to announce it at Gamescom, and then TGS, or it was whichever one came first. TGS comes first, right? One or the other. Basically, the messaging was going so well for PlayStation 4, and it had garnered such great positivity in the lead up to launch that obviously they didn't want to muddy the water with this strange peripheral. Yeah. But how is it going to work? I mean, games are going to have to support it, and
I mean, I think I was reading the Edge story, and they said it's not a mandated thing. I mean, I guess the best case scenario for Sony is that if they can get a good sort of line of first-party software behind it, is that it could be as successful as the original Kinect was. And obviously the original Kinect had a bunch of problems, but they sold millions of them. Like, it's still the fastest-selling electronics device ever. So if they can position it now and get some awesome software for it, then that's a really great thing to have.
That's a very good point, actually, if you compare it to how Microsoft positioned Kinect. Yeah. I mean, the other potential win for them is that if they pitch it along with the kind of one of the core ideas of the PlayStation 4, that is very open and indies can make games for these things and just pump them out, they can capture a slice of that scene that you see that's burgeoning on PC at the moment with all kinds of
if they can kind of get some sort of dev kit that allows indies to have some transfer between Oculus and whatever they're I mean,
I don't think you're gonna see them on stage going, Oculus, they're our mates.
Yeah, but they won't say it, but they can say you can bring your Oculus game to this or try it on this.
They might suggest it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you said about it needing to be 60 frames and 1080p upwards to kind of be viable for AAA games. But do you think it could be
again? It's the other thing that you need to take into account is that Oculus are this startup, very smart people, but they're not a huge company. Sony is this giant hardware company.
Yeah.
It's not going to take them very long to come up with something superior in terms of the display inside of the headset.
I just really like the idea of them kind of positioning it as an indie device, like letting all these indies coming in.
That would be the real win.
Yeah, and you can see that with Xbox One and Kinect. Like, it's only since they kind of got the idea Xbox thing up and running, and now we're starting to see some indie games that kind of saying, we're going to use Kinect to do. We're going to use Kinect to do this. Like Swery's going to put facial recognition D4. Swery's quite big as indies go, and it's about kind of coming up with this platform and then letting the indies get on with it. And I think that so many people have got Oculus dev kits and are already messing around with them. They're already thinking about how to do these things. Obviously, the platform won't be the same, but you look at even little places like Born Ready, done an Oculus version of Strike Suit Zero. I'm sure that's something that is going to be at the very least some knowledge they can use to do that for this PlayStation VR headset if it exists.
So Edge's source said, although it's going to be far superior to Oculus Rift's first incarnation, that kind of performance gap will be evened out with the arrival of Rift's new, more advanced Crystal Cove dev kit.
Yeah, but again, I'd say that the newer version of the Oculus that's coming out is going to require loads, a beefy machine, and I still don't think Oculus is going to surpass what Sony's going to be able to do in terms of display. And even if what that means is a more efficient display that will have, be able to have the same illusion, the same effects, the virtual reality effect, with perhaps a slightly lower resolution, they must be thinking something of that mould, really.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, and also it's GDC, so this is where GDC is not very, as we've said, it's not very consumer focused. It's more about check out this awesome technology that we've got. I mean, it might be something like Kinect, where obviously Kinect when they first came out is Project Natal, and they didn't come to market for over a year after that. So it might just be this is where Sony kind of rolls it out, and it doesn't actually, and it looks good. It's another kind of technology win for PlayStation 4, and they can feel good about it. They might not bring it to market until next year.
Very real possibility of that. Yep.
I think the one of the strong rumours, and this is not one of my sources, so I'm not sure if it's true or not, was about Driveclub supporting it, which could possibly suggest that it's sooner rather than later.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Because that was the launch window title.
It would be not. It would, I think Driveclub needs all the help it can get at the moment. So says Mr. Forza, obviously. But
All the
well,
burns coming out of you, aren't we?
yeah.
So yeah, Sony did say recently that they Driveclub team, is it Evolution Studios?
Yes.
Yeah.
Went back to the drawing board. That doesn't.
It's a very loose phrase.
Yeah, it's a very loose phrase. It probably doesn't mean complete scrap and redesign like what most people believe or took it as. It's more like they're kind of reworking.
I'd be really surprised if that's not out before the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, no, I think they've got time to do it. Like, because again, it missed launch, so it's kind of missed the kind of like the big end of year rush. So actually, and obviously, PlayStation 4 is selling gangbusters anyway. So I'm sure from Sony's point of view, it's actually like rather than just punt it out now and again, you're putting it up against all these other games that are coming out at the moment. It's probably worth just like spending a bit more time on it, getting it ready. Like maybe put it out early autumn, something like that. And it wasn't as if because Forza 5, which obviously looks lovely, but it took some knocks on release for being kind of not having the kind of as much content as people expected. So it kind of benefits Sony to kind of get Driveclub as good as it possibly can be at this point.
So moving on from that, Andy, you went to a very special place that child Andy would literally have a heart attack being in.
Disneyland.
Better.
I went to visit Rare on Monday, and in the 10 years doing this, well, yeah, I want to see Kinect Sports, obviously. So in the 10 years that I've been doing this, I've not had the opportunity to go for various reasons. One being that they haven't released many games in the last 10 years.
Yeah, John Hicks.
Hey, I'm not responsible for this.
Oh,
and I'm all embargoed up until Monday.
About the game, but you can tell us.
Or what I can say about the game is that I think everyone will be very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, John Hicks.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking credit for that.
But yeah, no, my inner 12-year-old was soiling himself. Awesome.
What was it? What was it like being there? What did you see?
I mean,
that you can
Microsoft's
talk
gutted
about?
it. Obviously, there's nothing. I went round. I got a tour through the whole place from a guy called Greg Mouse, who created Banjo-Kazooie. So again, little fanboy we. He also created Diddy Kong, another fanboy we. And there's nothing in the building that suggests they made games pre-2004. Like the
even banana peels are not allowed in that building. You eat apples and nothing else.
Conquer Live and Reloaded counts as retro. Like it's.
I bet there's just a vault under one of the barns that you kind of go.
Oh, there
like
is.
a
I
huge
got
door
to see it.
So there's a story for that.
I don't think I can talk about it really, but I did get to see their vault.
Anything in there that particularly piqued your interest? You were like, oh, that's amazing.
Well, they had like all the Killer Instinct arcade machines and like stuff like
What?
that. What? Yeah, it was. So it's amazing.
You know where this place is. I'm sure we can mount a heist, the three of us.
It's super impressive. Their like campus, if you want to call it that, just surrounded by fields and swans and trees.
Swans.
Yeah, it does. One of Aoife from OXM went along for us, and it did sounded like a kind of lovely place. And I think, obviously, as a Microsoft guy, I'm going to be nice about Kinect Sports Rivals, but it did. I saw it at Gamescom, and it did look pretty good.
They've taken their time with it. You can say that Kinect, having including yourself, having been one of the few people who went over to the campus and was given the full rundown of what it does and what it's tracking, etc. And I again got it in Rare this week. The new Kinect is seriously impressive, and it's not been sold enough yet publicly. Just how powerful it is. I mean, people are just there's plenty of voices moaning about it being there, but it is seriously impressive. And once you start seeing these games roll out, I think a lot of people are going to be won over because it's the new Kinect Sports is not going to be the sort of game that people expect, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I was talking to them at Gamescom about this because they said one of the things, at which point it was still a launch game and delayed it at that point. But they said one of the kind of the things about Kinect Sports Rivals is that this isn't like Kinect Sports was a game for a new peripheral and a console that was kind of in its twilight years, and it was very purposefully like going for that kind of family audience, kind of Wii Sports audience. Kinect Sports Rivals is built for early adopters, so it is for people who are going to go out and drop 400 quid on a console. So it is about actual gamers and leaderboards and messing people up, and it's about being much more competitive. Like it's not designed for your gran to play it as such.
It's Nintendo-esque multiplayer fun, like real together multiplayer, and it should be said that. Obviously, the original Kinect Sports a lot of it had to be smoke and mirrors just because of what was being tracked. I mean, the tracking of a hand on the original Kinect is just like a single block, whereas now the new
now it's 2 blocks.
It really is stupidly impressive how much that sensor can see. I'm quite surprised that they've not publicly released the dev tools for people to just mess about with and look at what it's seeing, because it's stupidly impressive. Like. It's got the 3 lasers on it that blast out at the speed of light around the entire room.
Yeah.
So you can literally
see it when you're in your bed and trying to go to sleep.
If you look at what it's seeing, if you look at what it's seeing,
it must be comforting though, Kinect watching you as you sleep.
It's just like this array of red lights pointing at my eyes. Carry on.
If you look at what it's seeing and it's kind of blasting out and it's recreating your entire room, you can use the analog sticks to move around stuff in your room in 3D. Like obviously not the back of it, just like the front. It completely recreated in real time at the speed of light, basically like 3D recreations of everything it sees. It doesn't have to be smoke and mirrors anymore. They can tell when you're, clasping your hand and, which way your foot is kind of tilting and, down to that sort of fidelity.
Yeah. I haven't been keeping an eye on it, but is any of Kinect used in Project Spark?
I think there is some sort of Kinect implementation in it, but I can't remember what
that 3D like modeling thing that Andy was talking about. Seems like it'd be perfect fit for a game where you're making stuff.
Yeah, no, I haven't used the beta yet, but I think Kinect was mentioned when they. I mean, to be fair, Project Spark is designed for like every single Microsoft platform, as far as I can tell. You can use it on Xbox, and 360 and Xbox One, and Windows and tablets, and God knows what. I imagine Kinect will be a part of it. I think Kinect as a device, I think one of the problems that Xbox One has is that there isn't really a massively compelling reason to use it at the moment. I mean, there's the voice controls; they're all right, but it's not really all that exciting. I think now that Twitch streaming's finally come out this week, I think having like a half decent camera to do,
big thing for Twitch.
Actually having like a pretty good high res camera to do your Twitch stream on, it's just there. That's dead handy. I think Kinect Sports Rivals is going to be a plus. And then I think again this this E3 this Christmas, I hope that we will start to see like proper uses of Kinect that actually make it look like the next gen bit of hardware it actually is. And maybe that'll be how that's Microsoft's approach to next gen, where Sony's going for like kind of like virtual reality goggles, and then look at, you can play, I don't know, David Cage's next whatever it is that he's going to make with your 3D goggles versus Halo 5 with however Kinect would work in that.
I still think they missed a trick not integrating the controller somehow. The original idea for Kinect was obviously to have some sort of Wii style wand, because that's the only thing really. I mean, even when you're getting to this sort of fidelity, like the new sensor is doing what the original one should have done. The only thing that it can't do is recreate that tactile responsiveness, and I think that's the only flaw with Kinect, the biggest flaw anyway, that just going through menus and stuff like that is laborious. When you're playing the game, when you're in the game, fine. But at some point, you're going to have to go through some menus.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the things. Like Kinect Sports Rivals does this, and when like you control the menus in Kinect Sports Rivals using the controller. Like remember when first gen Kinect titles, like everything had to be Kinect, and I think the only game that actually had a workable interface was like Dance Central, like where you just like swiped, and everything else you had to like hold your hand, like kind of this wobbling hand icon over a thing and wait for the circle to fill up. Like Kinect Sports Rivals, and they're like, you know what, controller's great for using for browsing menus. Just use that. You can just go done, and then you play the game with Kinect. And I think Kinect works with controllers just in general, like an Xbox One. It's like it's when you do like couch multiplayer, like Kinect can tell if you pass the pad to somebody. Like if you want to sync a new controller, you don't have to press the button on the front of the console. You just press it on the controller, and Kinect will notice and then sync that extra pad in and stuff. So I think it still can do all that stuff. I think they just haven't. Again, there's not really the killer use for it yet. I don't know if Kinect Sports Rivals will be it. Again, you know, it's kind of launching fairly soon after kind of Titanfall and before Watch Dogs. I don't know if it's gonna find a huge audience, but you know, people are saying good things about it, and then there'll be something else Kinect-y at E3, no doubt, and then it'll be kind of something. Then that'll be out before Christmas.
Yeah. I hope the core give it another crack. I really do. Like, you know, you had that little moment where you had like Steel Battalion coming out and these various core games were using it. I think if they gave it another go, like tried to make some core games with it, they could actually work with a new sensor.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems that Steel Battalion had was that
the actual game part of it was shit.
But actually, there are a couple of things about that's because Edwin on OXM he's actually got a soft spot for Steel Battalion, and he said he's actually like his theory is it's actually perfectly appropriate because it's from software and it's about these horrible clunky old mechs. And he said actually like part of the experience is actually like getting it. Is that like nothing? Is that everything's a little bit ramshackle and a little bit broken, and you're kind of fighting the technology and fighting your squad and everything. So it's a very compelling argument. The other thing is I think Steel Battalion. I think they started developing that with the very very early specs of Kinect before it became less accurate. And I think one of the because I think in the initial there was some talk about this years back when it was Project Natal. It was actually capable of like individual finger recognition or something like that, and then they took some chip out of it. There was some hardware thing they cut out to make it more affordable, and that ended up with the slightly woollier gesture recognition that the original Kinect had. And I think Steel Battalion was built for the previous one, and it didn't cope so well with the later one. Although actually, that said, I also like Steel Battalion because I played it at a Microsoft event, which obviously like it was all perfectly set up, and it wasn't my living room, which is too small. But I had a great time. I absolutely like smashed through this level, and it was brilliant. I was like, Steel Battalion, it's awesome. And then when the reviews came out, it's like,
But anyone interested in Kinect Sports can get a taster of it now, can't they, on Xbox Live?
Yeah, so there's the pre-season that's shipped with consoles and stuff. A free demo with the wakeboarding.
Again, at the same time abiding my non-disclosure agreement, I would not use that demo to judge the full game.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question, but you've answered it for me, so excellent. So other than that, what have you guys been playing in your off time? Lots of Titanfall, I assume. Andy's just looking like I don't even know. You've been playing Thief, haven't you?
I've been too busy to play games, to be honest. I've just been writing about Metal Gear, and there's some other stuff that I've been reviewing, and obviously doing this Kinect stuff. I've not really had a chance to play much. I mean, I started Thief, but not enough to say anything interesting. It's very. I think it's a really pretty game. I quite like what I saw of it. Played like the first hour or so.
Interesting.
What else did I start? I started South Park this week. Excellent. It's just brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I completed South Park.
You finished it?
Yeah.
How long was it?
Oh lordy,
I've heard it's like about 10 to 12 hours.
Something like that. I mean, I'm one of those obsessives who goes through every interactive thing and opens every garage and all that kind of stuff. So I actually, that's not a good way to play South Park, I should say, because there's initially when I got the open world, it's like, I can go anywhere and I can open anybody's garage door. So I spent like first 3 hours just like interacting with every single thing I could, and then I did the story. And actually, that's a really bad way to play it because like the actual, whilst there's all sorts of little in-jokes and stuff, they're quite minor, and it's actually the story that kind of keeps the kind of entertainment flowing, and then the story itself sends you around the place and gives you opportunities to find all this stuff. And I'm a little bit disappointed that now there's a couple of, like, having completed it, there's a couple of quests I now can't, like I didn't get, and now I can never get them. because once you completed it dumps you back in the game, but you can't go. There's certain things you can only access at specific times, which is a bit of a nuisance. But I did go back and beat up Al Gore, so that was good.
I played a bit of Castlevania, which won't talk at length about, but everyone's been kind of saying it's not all that great. I played the starting area; it's about 2 or 3 hours. I thought it was excellent. I'm assuming this is where it starts to take a sharp decline downwards. But I'm thinking about just never returning to it and just treating that first hour
just keeping it perfect.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah,
shit tons of games out at the moment, aren't
there's
there?
a lot out. Dark Souls
it's been,
is...
yeah.
It's like my pile is already now like Thief, South Park, Titanfall. I haven't even got like Dark Souls or Yoshi or Metal Gear.
Yoshi's Island.
Yeah. Well, no, it was, this is one of those things because obviously I work on a magazine, so we have to kind of like think a month in advance, and we've had like a couple of lean months, and this month's been like bloody hellfire, and then next month it's like, oh yeah, as you were.
So like a big decision for people now. They've got to choose between Dark Souls, Titanfall, and maybe Yoshi as well. But we put a question out there on Twitter and Facebook saying like, what are the difficult decisions that you've had to make in the past between games? And before there wasn't that many. Some people misunderstood the question. They were like, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 2. No, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm talking about in the past. Read the tweet. But yeah, what are your...
The anecdote I tell all the bloody time and people are bored of is when I bought Turok 2 instead of Ocarina of Time. Thanks to Tim Weaver and N64 magazine giving it 96% and saying it's better than GoldenEye. That's like
Turok.
Saying it's better than GoldenEye and giving it 96% in 1998 is basically take my money.
I don't think I've ever had to make a difficult decision of this. I've always been quite good. This is floating my, stroking my own ego, but I've always been quite good in figuring out what is the bullshit. And
he says, raising an eyebrow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't often make difficult decisions.
I know that is a stinker because I'm smart. So I've never really had any like difficult decisions to make. But at the same time, for a lot of my life when I was younger, I wasn't really buying the games, so it was like whatever I was given. Sometimes I wouldn't complain. So. What about you, John Hicks? Anything you've been from your childhood that you're like, oh
God, I think whenever I used to have to buy, because I never had any money as a kid, so it was always like renting stuff. I think I only ever bought about 3 full-price games, and it was just like kind of weeks of kind of retail anxiety. And I think I'd always finish up buying something totally god-awful as well.
I used to rent tons of games.
Yeah, I mean, renting stuff, absolutely fine, because you just, that was just me and my brother, and it was like mostly playing on like the Mega Drive, and it's like, right, we rent it on Thursday when the place opens on Saturday, and you absolutely rinse it all weekend.
I reckon I've played
then it
like
goes back
two-thirds.
to the latest you possibly can on Sunday.
I reckon I've played 2/3 of like the library of like every console that came out in the 90s just through renting stuff.
Yeah.
See, my one was just like at a certain point, my dad would either see that I've been playing a game for a really long time and take pity upon me and buy a game, or I'd say I'd like a new game. And that would be it. One would appear. I would not be able to specify further. One would appear. I would not be able to say I want this game. My dad would pick the game, and like sometimes it was okay. I'd get a decent game. Other times I'd get some absolute stinkers.
So something like Simple 2000s.
There was one. There was like one time it was like, oh, you've got Gunstar Heroes for the Mega Drive, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And then another one was like this thing called, it was a game called Chelnov the Atomic Runner. It was like the most Russian side-scrolling endless running shooter, and it was awful. But I played it for so long, and when you're a kid, you play it for so long that you kind of find the things to love about it. And I loved how properly Russian it was. It was like the worst music, the worst graphics, but it was fun to play.
I really miss there was this was really big on the Amiga because that was a big gaming platform for me when I was a kid, and one of the really interesting separations between like North American game development and European was that like Nintendo rules North America, like and everyone had a NES, and it was all about like Duck Hunt, Mario, and that kind of stuff, and that's why like Nintendo looms so large in the American psyche. Over here, obviously Nintendo was a thing, but like Sega was much bigger over here, so you had the kind of Nintendo versus Sega, and you also had Amiga, and Amiga was a much more democratized development. It's actually much more like PC gaming is now, and it sold reasonably well in Eastern Europe. So there are some astonishing Eastern European Amiga games, and there's a couple of abandoned, and they're really tiny. So there's a load of abandonware sites where you can actually get an Amiga emulator, and there are abandonware sites that are full of thousands of these games, and they are some dark thing. It's like you think like Slender has nothing on like it's this weird game like kind of. Oh, no, there's one game that looks. I think it was called Dingster. And I can't remember what it was. It was brutal, and basically it looked exactly like Papers, Please. Only, and it was being played straight. This is what some dude in Poland made this game, and that was just representative of it. And there's loads of them.
They weren't like making like creative games. They were just those were diaries.
Yeah, it was just like here's what it's like.
This is what happened today
in pre-perestroika Warsaw. But it's just fascinating if you kind of look at the history, like the kind of European game development was a much weirder, more interesting place than the kind of like Nintendo monoculture in North America.
It's a shame there's not really any sort of like a mainstream virtual console type platform for Amiga games and older stuff like that from Eastern Russia or whatever. No one really cares about preserving that stuff and bringing it to. I think a lot of the that stuff. With how wanky current indie games are, like a lot of people would really appreciate that stuff.
I think it's because this was years ago. I was looking into this stuff. Like I think it's still. I mean, you can do all this stuff, and that's like there's a pretty good Workbench emulator, and there's lots of like archive. Well, there were lots of archive sites for it, and it's actually a heritage thing because that's where DICE came from. Because it was the Amiga demo scene, wasn't it? And that's where DICE came from, and a couple of other.
Maybe Valve should launch Steam Early Access.
I see what you did there.
Boo. But yeah, so the people on Twitter were just saying, easy decision, just buy Dark Souls. But a few people who understood what I was asking said he's facing. One guy was I can't remember what his name is now, but he said he's facing that decision right now, including. Metal Gear Solid, between Metal Gear Solid and I think Titanfall. So they're struggling with that. And another guy's like Titanfall or Tales of Symphonia HD Chronicles.
Thing is, none of the games coming out in the next week really are like the same kind of games. So it's not really. They're not competition.
Yeah,
otherwise, they wouldn't be releasing
like
in the same
versus
week.
Battlefield.
Yes, I think Titanfall and Dark Souls are on two completely different generation of consoles, and they're two completely. One of them hasn't even got a single player game, and the other one basically is just a single player game.
I think a lot of people like it's more than just about money now. It's about time. Like that's what I consider. Like what do I give? And Dark Souls, I am absolutely dying to play more of because I love the original.
You know what I think about Dark Souls though is that people are going to be actively. There's going to be a community surrounding that for the next 2 years. I don't feel rushed to get into Dark Souls. Whereas Titanfall, if you go and play that in 6 months, you might have missed the boat. Whereas if you go on there this week, your entire friends list will be on it. Like it's party time for the next month on Titanfall.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I think. But with the thing that not worries me, but the thing that kind of is tempering the excitement is with Dark Souls is that I will spend a lot of the time I play that game frustrated and doing the same stuff over and over again. And I know it's part of the experience and I accept it and I really look forward to it. But like when I'm weighing up what should I play right now, Titanfall or Dark Souls, I can either go for the game that will immediately thrill me or the game that will immediately crush
satisfaction, or do you feel like being trolled by some Japanese game developers?
Well, so obviously the only sensible answer is to get both. And you play Dark Souls until you get frustrated and you play Titanfall to make you happy. And then
I have this really weird tendency. It's just so particular for me. I have a timing in the day when I really want to play a game. Like yesterday, I was sitting in my bed. I couldn't sleep. It was like 1 a.m. and I was itching to play Dark Souls badly. And I was like, I can't play this. It's 1 a.m. I've got work in the morning. If I start, I'll be doing it for like until 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whereas Titanfall, like I'll get home from work and be like, I want to play this right now.
Yeah.
Weird stuff. But yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything for this week. Thank you for listening. Please do remember to subscribe to us on iTunes and review and rate us. It's very important so that we, feel popular and stuff and people can discover the podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at TomorH. Andy, you are
SPO1.
John, you are
Mr. John C.
And you can find CVG at CVG_news. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.